All right, welcome back to the channel. So, the talk keeps going, and I think it's talk for the sake of talk about Deontay Wilder pulling out of the Tyson Fury fight. George Foreman gives his 2 cents, and an excellent observation from George Foreman, who ain't telling nothing but the truth in response to this talk about Deontay Wilder stepping aside for Anthony Joshua. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. So, little background before we get into it. Tyson Fury is the WBC champion of the world, heavyweight champion of the world, and he's the WBC heavyweight champion of the world because he beat Deontay, the Bronze Bomber Wilder, in February. In that fight, though, and everybody knew this before the fight was made, right? This is something that was known before the first fight was was made, that they had signed a 2-fight deal. 2-fight deal. Whoever won the second, it didn't matter who won the first fight. The second fight was going to be a rematch. That was agreed by both parties. Tyson Fury agreed to it. Deontay Wilder agreed to it. And you can assume that it's safe to assume that if either one of them did not agree to it, then the first fight wouldn't have happened. Say, for example, Tyson Fury said, "No, I'm fighting you once. I'm not signing a rematch clause in this contract. If I beat you, Deontay Wilder, that's it. I'm walking away," right? If Tyson Fury had done that, Tyson Fury would not have gotten a shot at that title. Period. Tyson Fury would be fighting, I don't know, whoever the equivalent, Sefi Safiri's cousin and Panetta. He would be having a Fury Panetta 2 if he had not agreed to that, right? So all of the conversation about Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder stepping aside from Tyson Fury, is something where people are saying, like, people are having this attitude that because Deontay Wilder lost and Tyson Fury won the fight convincingly, that somehow that makes Tyson Fury's promise before his negotiation to get into the fight, somehow that just makes that go away. But who are the people that are pushing this? The people that, as I can see, that are pushing it are Matchroom Boxing. I have not heard Bob Arum talking about that or Top Rank talking about that. Not heard it at all. Have not heard Frank Warren talk about it. I've not heard Deontay Wilder talk about it. I've heard people ask Tyson Fury questions about it and Tyson Fury give his answers about it, but nobody in that party, nobody in that group has really been behind the conversation that Deontay Wilder was going to step aside from the Tyson Fury 3 fight. The only people that you really hear pushing that is Matchroom Boxing, Eddie Hearn, and they're doing that the same way that they were doing the same type of conversations that they were having before Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury 2 was made, where Anthony Joshua, where people were pushing for that fight not to take place, and blah blah blah, all that stuff. So anyway, you get the point. Matchroom Boxing and Eddie Hearn, who do not necessarily have, they've lost a lot of cachet. They've lost a lot of the name value associated with Anthony Joshua. Like, when Anthony Joshua won the title against Vladimir Klitschko, or won the WBA against a retired Vladimir Klitschko. But once he won that, there was this big magic moment in UK boxing. And a lot of boxing media and people got behind it in the United States. So, it was Anthony Joshua, Anthony Joshua, Anthony Joshua. But then Anthony Joshua lost to Andy Ruiz, and now he doesn't look like he's this undefeatable monster, right? So they start marketing Anthony Joshua by talking about him fighting Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, and da-da-da-da-da-da, right? So suffice it to say, dude, that this is coming out of fans of Anthony Joshua and people that just want to insult Deontay Wilder, right? Or people in the UK that are saying, let's skip by. We know what's going to happen. in the third fight. Just skip over Deontay Wilder, fight Anthony Joshua. And Deontay Wilder, you can get the winner. Matter of fact, that's what Eddie Hearn said specifically. Eddie Hearn's like, well, if it doesn't happen, if Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury cannot happen in 2020, then that fight needs to be canceled, and then we'll move on to Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury, right? No, dude, doesn't work like that. Doesn't work like that. You're going to keep the agreement. Deontay Wilder ain't getting out the fight, and your boy's going to fight. Now, why does it have to be that way? Because it's something that George Foreman said, and George Foreman is telling the spot on truth. George Foreman's like, look, man, if you don't take that, first of all, you get that rematch clause and you have it and you use it. Because if you give it up, it's gone and you're never going to get another shot again. And Deontay Wilder for sure would never get another title shot again if he did not take that fight with with Tyson Fury, because they were already all ducking him. Like I keep still having these ridiculous conversations. Well, I don't have the ridiculous conversations. People try to suck me into these ridiculous conversations about Deontay Wilder ducking Vladimir Klitschko and Deontay Wilder ducking Anthony Joshua. And Deontay Wilder never wanted to fight anybody ever, and all this garbage, right? And ignoring the fact that, nah, dude, these people didn't want to fight him, right? Like, what makes more sense to you? A guy that is undefeated at the time, that has knocked out everybody he's ever fought, right? Knocked out everybody he's ever fought, being the one that is not trying to fight a older, glass-jawed Vladimir Klitschko, right? So people keep pointing. Well, you saw the article that Shelley Finkel wrote. Yeah, I saw the article that yes, I saw and heard what Vladimir Klitschko's manager, Shelley Finkel, had to say about his cash cow, Klitschko, fighting Deontay Wilder. Yes, Vladimir Klitschko's manager said the same thing about Deontay Wilder that Anthony Joshua's manager said about Deontay Wilder, or anybody else's who's ever fought Deontay Wilder's manager said about him. That is really dangerous. There's not as much money in the fight as this soft touch. Let's take the soft touch, make the money. If we beat him, then maybe we can go to a Deontay Wilder fight. But jumping in the ring with Deontay Wilder has never been anybody's first choice. Never been. And so this revisionist history and this make-believe garbage that people are spread about Deontay Wilder, dude, this is not just an insult to Deontay Wilder, it's an insult to common sense. However, Deontay Wilder is not, that environment is still going to be in existence for Deontay Wilder, because none of these other fighters are 6'9", 330 pounds, and they're not going to be able to get away with gloves half on their hands or padding removed from it, right? Or not removed from it, but those gloves that are legal, where you can just order, you can just ask the people that make it for you to make sure that the padding that the padding is away from the knuckle. That type of nonsense, right? Anyway, Deontay Wilder, 10-year champion for 5 years, 10 title defenses, 10 successful title defenses, 40 knockouts, dude. He earned the right to have another shot at that belt. Not just because of what he's accomplished because of what he, accomplished in the ring while he was the WBC champ, but because that's what Tyson Fury agreed to. Now, I know you guys aren't big on holding Tyson Fury responsible for his actions, right? Or his words. However, Deontay Wilder has the force of law behind him, and Top Rank ain't getting out of that, okay? And Deontay Wilder is somebody that is sitting there with $40 million he made last year, so it ain't going to be easy to put anything up over him, because he's got more than enough money to get the reputation, get the representation that he needs to do battle with any of those dudes. So do not think that he's just going to fold over and walk away because you dudes write these corny boxing articles and think that you're going to intimidate and talk people and get crowds of who know what people behind them to try to get Deontay Wilder completely out of the picture. As you have heard from Paulie Malignaggi, if you've listened to this channel, you've listened to what Paulie Malignaggi said and Robert Garcia say about black fighters and how we're not dominant and all that. And if you look at the history behind it, you'll see that there are large periods of time in the boxing history where black fighters where people are discouraged openly discouraged from fighting black fighters. And the ones that aren't openly discouraged from it, many of them just on their own draw their own little color line and say, nah, not going to do it. So I wouldn't doubt at all if that happened to Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder would not get a shot against Anthony Joshua. He's not going to get a shot against anybody. He'll be fighting second-tier fighters, and those guys are just going to continue to make excuses about why, oh, he lost to Anthony Joshua, and this guy is a bum that he fought. All that nonsense, man. It's kind of a pain in the behind, but, you know, I do believe in the world of boxing that, the arc of history bends towards justice, right? Kind of like all this smack that Matchroom Boxing was talking about taking over American boxing, and DAZN was coming and all this, and these dudes, and the cheat move they pulled against Deontay Wilder, because I definitely believe Tyson Fury cheated in that fight with them gloves, right? And Kenny Bayless was a little less than, thorough in his refereeing of that fight, but I like Kenny Bayless. I ain't gonna shoot on him too bad, crap on him too bad about that, man. But anyway, you get my point, man. We will be seeing a Deontay Wilder Tyson Fury fight 3. We'll see what happens. I mean, I gotta be honest, I give the advantage in the third fight to Tyson Fury, because why wouldn't you? He's won a lot of the rounds, and the majority of the rounds that the guys fought, he won the last fight. There's an off chance that, he'll be able to pull off a different cheat move the third fight than he did the first and the second. And I have no doubt whatsoever that he's going to go ahead and try to do that. He is definitely, it's just going to be like, how exactly is Tyson Fury going to cheat in the third fight? He can't have the glove hanging half off his hand. He's not going to be allowed to fight with the padding off of his gloves. But what is he going to do, right? What are you going to pull out of the, 100-year history of that his family has in bare knuckle fighting? Which one of the tricks of the old dirty tricks of the trade is he going to pull out? Because it's coming. Anyway, it is coming though, and he ain't stepping aside for it. Shout out to George Foreman for telling the truth about it. You let me know what you think in the comment section. With that, I'm out. Peace.